Step one is to review the lab environment. We are going to run a simple max HTTP 1.1 throughput test through a C100 MP using the first compute group. Those are connected up to a firewall, and the gateways for the firewall are 192.168.51.1 and 192.168.52.1. We will create client and server subnets on each respective network that will contain 99 IP addresses from the .2 to the .100 on both the 51 and the 52 networks. Step two has us logging in and starting Cyberflood. We must log in with the username and password. In our example, we have never connected up with a device. We must do so now. You can add device up at the top or in the middle of the screen. The only thing that is mandatory is the IP address. However, adding additional information can be useful. Notice that there is a checkbox by the IP address, meaning that there is connectivity with the chassis. Step four is to create a test queue. You can accept the default name, although it's always good to name profiles with names that make sense to you. We select the compute group that we wish to use and complete the process. The test queue was successful. Step five has us creating the client subnet. Select the profile builder, subnets, IPv4, and now we must configure the starting IP address, the network net mask, the count, and in this case, we are going to select the default gateway. It's always good to name your profile accordingly. Save it. Step six has us accessing the max HTTP throughput test template. Test builder, max HTTP throughput. Step seven has us assigning the test queue to the test. We go to the test queue area, the pull down window. Step number 8, assign client subnet and the physical port to the test. This is a two-step process. The first one is we are grabbing the client 51 subnet with gateway and dropping it into the client subnets area. We will then assign it to the physical port by selecting it. Notice how it went from 1 to 0. We previously showed you how to create a subnet profile from the profile builder. Well, now we are going to launch the profile builder from within the test template. Once we get to this point, it's exactly the same. Configure the starting IP address, the count, the default gateway, and then we will name accordingly. Step 10 has us assigning the server subnet and physical port. You'll see that it's created. We will come down here, we will select it, and then we will select OK. Step 11, selecting the traffic pattern type. This is an asterisk, meaning that it's optional. It is optional since in some tests we can alter this traffic pattern. However, in the max HTTP throughput test, we cannot. We are going to select the default of pair. We can verify the load specification, merely selecting the edit pencil. We can lower the load. We can adjust the delays time or the startup time. We can alter the ramp up time and the ramp down time. Those are the 4 elements that we can alter on the majority of the tests. Step 13, adjust pass-fail criteria as required. Once again, this is an optional step. You can leave it alone. If you want to modify it, access the pencil. We can turn it off if we would like. Step 14, set test duration as required. Once again, an optional step. The majority of the Cyberflood tests have a default time that best suits that test. We save the test configuration. Anytime you make a change within the test environment, the save icon will be displayed. We are going to name this accordingly. Run the test. This green arrow is the run button. Selecting that will launch the loading test screen. The test will go through verifying the test, abiding the load, and uploading the test configuration. Once it gets through these 3 steps, the runtime results screen is displayed. The test begins in the delay section. No traffic load is generated, although the test is running at this point. During the ramp-up phase, the load increases as the test progresses. At any point, you can run your mouse over an area of the load specification to see how much load is being generated and the actual test time. We can run our mouse up to the bandwidth fail line. Any traffic during the steady state that falls below 9.7 gig will be identified as a failure. The test will now run through the steady state time of the test. If you view the top, we have a status bar that provides the percentage of the completed test run. You will also see the estimated remaining time of the test run. The view report and download buttons are grayed out because you cannot access these since they are end of test results. We scroll down, we can see the other various results that are available to this particular test. All of the tests have similar types of results, but they may vary depending on the test type. We have connections, transactions per second. If we wished, we can solely look at the transactions, for example, by graying out the connections. Now you will see that you have the number of transactions, or we can look solely at the number of connections established. Percentages of the transactions per second, as well as the number of transactions. We have the number of TCP connections. Our current attempted, we can turn these off. And then we have the protocol data, incoming bandwidth, outgoing bandwidth, the actual and then the goal of the test, successful transactions, unsuccessful transactions, and attempted. The test is nearing the end of the steady state. It is generating 10 gig of traffic. Once it hits the ramp down phase, it will drop down to 0. Now the test is still active. If there are TCP connections that remained open, they can still be gracefully shut down during this phase of the test. If we went down, you will see that there is no more incoming or outgoing bandwidth. Once the status displays 100%, the test is complete, and we have completed step 17, which was view runtime results. Now let's look at step 18, view the end of test results. We have 2 buttons that are now active. The download, which will allow us to download the logs, which includes some additional end of test result information, as well as the debugging files. From the review report pull-down menu, you see you have 2 choices, a live report and a full report. Let's look at the live report. This launches the Cyberflood end of test report. At the very top, you'll see it has the name, max HTTP throughput_demo. If you enable the pass-fail test criteria, you will have a test grade. There is a summary section, which provides summary information, and then you have the charts that are very similar to the charts that you had during the runtime. The nice thing about it is if you run your mouse over that, it will give you those exact data points. The protocol data is the average for the entire test run. And that completes the live end of test results. At this point, you could print it, or you could generate a PDF that you want to store on your PC. We will close this. We will take a look at the full report. This is the PDF that gets generated. You can either download this to your PC, or you could print it as well. And this is a report that's generated that contains several pages. If you wish to rerun this test, all you need to do is select the rerun button. If you wish to alter or modify this test, you can close it, and then you have access to the test template once again. Also, if you wanted to, if you went to the dashboard, you would have seen some information here within the running test. But you see here, this was the last test run. You kind of have a couple options. View the log, you could delete it, or you can rerun it.